Let's talk about the chuffing Young Avengers, eh? So welcome to my second comic book review. Technically we're going to be doing two because we're going to be doing two TPs, two volumes, a whole run. I think it's like 15 issues, maybe 10 issues. I can't fully remember. We're not going to be covering Young Avengers Presents, just Young Avengers Volume 1 and Volume 2. Now, it's been 20 years since these came out, like the original run. Don't know when the TPs came out. But this was my like natural veering point after House of M. I just went straight into Young Avengers and I don't regret it because this is really, really interesting. And I think, in my opinion, compared to like if we're gonna take a look at like the internet's opinion and like the MCU fan base's opinion on the Young Avengers, I think this is very underrated. So we're gonna be talking about it today. I'm gonna be going through. We're gonna be talking about every single character that is on the Young Avengers, and I'm gonna be talking about the plot. I'm gonna try my best to avoid spoilers. I will be saying who the villains are, but I'm not going to be going into detail about very specific plot points. If anything specific sort of happens, I'm going to try and veer away from it because I think that, like, little runs like this, it is best to just go in completely blind. But we will be discussing characters and character traits, character arcs, basically, that kind of thing. So, the general premise of the Young Avengers, specifically the 2005 run, it was post House of M and pre-Civil War. That's the kind of landscape that we're in when it comes to this run. And again, I didn't go backwards to Avengers Disassembled. I went forwards into the Young Avengers run. And I sort of carried on. I veered off further. There is something like echoing, and I can't tell if it's my energy drink. It could be. It's kind of stopped now. That was really, really weird. It was echoing real bad. I've completely lost my train of thought. I'm awful. But I veered off, ironically. I veered off into Civil War and I kept ploughing forward and following major comic book events while also following the Young Avengers attached to it, basically. But yeah, certain Avengers are dead. So this is, again, one of the spoilers that kind of related to House of M when we spoke about it in Avengers Disassembled. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, but it is crucial for Young Avengers to understand Ant-Man is dead. Just gonna get that out there, Ant-Man died. So, and now we're introducing young, diverse characters. Now, this was 2005, and if this team was assembled now, it would be considered woke, which is crazy. 2005, 20 years ago, 2 whole decades, and we got the first real, like, woke Marvel team. Young Marvel team that was woke. I don't know if you would count the Runaways. I don't really know like what the Runaways debut and sort of existence was around like the same time as the Young Avengers or pre the Young Avengers. But as far as I'm aware, this was the first purely woke Marvel Young team. So let's talk about the characters. Patriot, the leader of the team, he is the grandson of Isaiah Bradley, the Cold War Captain America, the forgotten Captain America. And he has kind of assigned himself as the leader, I guess, past sort of like volume 1. He's sort of the leader, he's sort of not the leader. It's a bit confusing. Again, I'm not going to go into too many spoilers about his character's story, especially in volume 2, because there is a big focus on him. But the general premise is, again, he's the grandson of a super soldier, and he ends up taking one of Bucky's old uniforms from a museum and wearing that and using the alter ego Patriot. So, and for the record, like, at least in volume 1, again, we'll not go too far into it, he's pretty powerless, which is interesting. So that's kind of the twist to his character, I guess, and you get to kind of explore that quite a bit, which is quite relevant to the whole Sam Wilson Captain America commentary that we have going on at the moment with Captain America 4 recently coming out. We then have Iron Lad, who assembled the team initially and sort of leads the team. I would have said that, like, initially he's the team leader and then Patriot kind of becomes the team leader. It's sort of like a passing of the torch sort of thing. But Iron Lad is, for anybody that doesn't know, a different version of Kang the Conqueror. Now, I don't know if that's really considered a spoiler. I think it's kind of common knowledge. I think. But yeah, he's a younger version of Kang the Conqueror, travelled back in time, trying to prevent himself from becoming evil. And he's got, like, Kang Tech, which looks like an Iron Man suit. I guess it's like quasi Iron Man Stark Kang Tech. It's pretty cool. And yeah, Iron Lad. Next we have Asgardian and Hulkling. Now, for those that have not read this, you might be wondering, who the hell is Asgardian? Because so did I. I was really, really confused as to what was going on here. But the idea is that they don't realize their actual connection to the Avengers. They know that all of them have a link to the Avengers, but they've kind of got a bit muddled up because Hulkling can turn green, but isn't related to the Hulk. And Asgardian can channel lightning, but it's just one of a whole multitude of abilities that they've just kind of hyper-fixated on and gone, well, you must be somehow related to an Asgardian. So Asgardian is, of course, Billy, a.k.a. Wiccan. Hulkling, of course, Teddy, a.k.a. Teddy. And we get introduced to them, and they're already a couple. We don't get to see how they meet or anything like that. They're a couple right off the bat, openly gay, not ashamed of it, blatantly gay. Which it was real. This, I'll be honest, like, these were the guys that, like, I came into this comic reading for, and, you know, I watched Agatha all along. It got me into them reading House of M. I went to Young Avengers. There's like a link there. There's a through line, isn't there? Let's be real. And I really enjoy those characters. Kate Bishop, who is not an initial member of the team. She ends up joining the team during the events of Volume 1, the first sort of set of issues. And she has a sort of indirect link to Hawkeye. She's just sort of ironically very good at shooting a bow and arrow. She's not necessarily linked directly to Hawkeye. She's just has the same sort of skill set as him. So they immediately say, you know, oh, you're the Hawkeye of the team. And she displays a lot of leadership abilities and a lot of leadership skills. And in my opinion, is the leader of the team. Especially as you go sort of like into Children's Crusade, I think they display that a lot more. And in some of the sort of tag-along issues that we get for some big events, like for the Civil War one and like for the Siege one, she just gives me leadership vibes more than Patriot or Iron Lad do. Then we had Vision. Vision's a bit of a confusing one. So I won't say the origins of how we get this Vision, but it's like older Vision in a younger Vision's body, and then like it's not the same Vision, and he's got a different name. He's not Jarvis. He's a bit of it's a weird character, and there's like some romance thrown in there with another character that, again, I won't spoil that. That would be interesting for, like, if you don't know what that is, finding that out is pretty interesting. I think he's mostly just used here as a sort of Deus Ex Machina, like, plot armor sort of way of revealing to these characters their true links to the other Avengers. Because other than that, he serves not a lot of purpose past Volume 1. Like, Volume 2 and a lot of the tie-ins, he's not necessarily that important, at least in my opinion. It's been a while since I read these first two volumes. I read them last year. But from what I can remember, not really a whole point to him past like the romance and providing that bit of crucial information. Next up, we've got Stature. Again, not initially part of the Avengers team. Like Kate Bishop, she joined sort of like part way through. It was initially just Wiccan, Hulkling, Iron Lad, and Patriot, and then Kate Bishop and Stature joined part way through. And, you know, they meet Stature and find out she's Ant-Man's daughter. And I think she's breaking into Avengers Mansion to get her dad's armor when they meet her because of his passing. And then discover that she's got abilities. And that she has the ability to grow in size and basically turn into like a giant man. Which I'm sure there's plenty of people that like the fact that this woman can become a giant. I know that that's a thing for some people. Which might be the reason why she was created, actually. I know it's strange to think about, but she can be a giant, and she gets recruited onto the team. Now she's a bit of a weird character as well. She's got like a very brash personality. She often sort of fades into the background, I think, and isn't fully utilized. But I know that they've done stuff with the character a little bit more recently to kind of reinvent her. Outside of like the Young Avengers titles. So I'm interested to like read a little bit more about her character specifically. But I'm nowhere near, like I've got such a long reading list, like that's quite low at the bottom. Then we have Speed, who in my opinion is the most underrated Young Avenger. He gets put and cast aside so often. He's introduced in volume 2. He is of course, most people know this. I don't think it's considered a spoiler. He's the twin brother of Billy. This is Tommy. He's a speedster. And he can generate, I believe, explosive energy. The quicker that he runs, he can kind of expel explosive energy. I think. If they do it like once when they first meet him and that's it. He's got a brilliant personality. Like, absolutely brilliant. He's one of my favourite comic book characters from Marvel, but they never, ever utilise him. I think they've started to a little bit more recently in, like, the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver comics and stuff, and in, like, Avengers Academy, but I'm not there yet fully. I've just seen the odd panel here and there. But there's multiple moments where, like, he's got fantastic banter with some of the other teammates, and I think it's just because speedsters are quite difficult to write, so he's often put into a scenario where he's not really needed to be there, or he's kind of off doing something else. And it's a shame, because like I said, he's got a really, really great personality. They always write him consistently as like a bit of a himbo. That's the only way that I can really describe it, is a bit of a himbo. But yeah, I love Speed. He's brilliant. So let's talk about the art of the book before we get on to the sort of like plot summary of the whole thing. Let's talk about the art, because the art really caught me off guard with this. Now, the art's by, I believe it's pronounced Jim Chung and John Dell. And if you've Googled like Jim Chung's art, his art all looks like this, and it's brilliant. Like, they look like classic comic book characters is the only way that I can describe it, really. Like, if I sort of mentally picture 90s to early 2000s comic book characters, this is the art style that I think of. And I'm going to have to do some research to see whether or not he's done some other stuff that I recognize, like some Spider-Man stuff, because it just looks great. Everyone kind of has, like, I don't know, because it's not even very, like, hyper detailed or anything, but everyone just sort of looks right, if that makes sense. I think the colouring in this book is brilliant, in both volumes, is brilliant. Just all around, the art is just great, and like I said, it feels like classic sort of comic book characters that you would expect from the early 2000s. It's very good quality art and very consistent as well. There's not really like a point where anybody kind of looks dodgy or looks a bit off or anything like that. Now, let's talk about the plot. So, crashing the wedding. Again, I'm not gonna I'm not going to delve into spoilers. I'm just going to kind of give you like a brief idea of what happens. And I will be mentioning a villain that popped up a little bit earlier during the Iron Lad segment. So, crashing the wedding. We get to see the Young Avengers basically crash a wedding that Kate Bishop is attending. I believe she's getting married in it. And they ruin her wedding. And she's like, well, I didn't want to get married anyway. And then she ends up joining the team. And that's kind of like the main story initially. A lot of Volume 1, especially like the first half of it, is setting up the newer members coming into the team and joining the initial four. And us getting introduced to those new members. Then we've got Kang. Kang is the big baddie. Love a bit of Kang. I was really, really excited to read a Kang story. And this was like an Avengers level threat. They went like straight in. They went in like firm, hard. They went in big for like establishing these characters. I mean, we got cameos from Avengers. You do get to see other Avengers in this. You get to see plenty of other Avengers in this, to be fair. And I mean, Kang is an Avengers villain. It makes a lot of sense, obviously, with the link to Iron Lad. There's a lot of stuff going on there. And then in the second volume, we get a really, really cool Skrull storyline. And I think that I was going to say I think Volume 2 might be a little bit stronger story-wise, but I can't say that because the Kang stuff is really great. They're both just really, really great volumes to read. But yeah, that's the most I can say really without like diverging spoilers. Did I like it? I think it's a bit obvious that I did. These are some of my favourite books that I've got in my collection right now. I have gone out of my way to collect a lot of Wiccan and Teddy stuff, but these will always, like, I'll have a soft spot for these. I mean, I have the Toy Biz Young Avengers figures because they're the only Young Avengers figures that they made. They're really great toys. I have my Wiccan Funko Pop. Like, I just absolutely love these characters. They are brilliant. Out of 10, in terms of, like, 2005 representation, a lot of these characters are queer. A lot of these characters are diverse in different ways, whether it's their identity or dealing with certain traumas and things. It is a very diverse team, especially for 2005. And the team does get a little bit more diverse as well as we go into like 2013 and, sort of where those characters go even past that. But again, for 2005, this was pretty good, pretty bold. And all of these characters were really strong in the volumes, even if some of them weren't showcased as much as others. So out of 10... I think I would give it a fair 9 because I have to take my own bias out of it. But I think that anybody could read these 2 volumes as long as you're not going to go into it going, oh, I'm not going to like it because it's got gay characters in. Or I'm not going to like it because it's got women in it. As long as you're not going to go into it already hating it for those minority groups or for those like that diverse representation, then you're going to enjoy the book. If you just read it as a book, it's great. It's really, really good. After this, if you are reading this, if you're kind of like following the same reading order as me, you're doing House of M and then you're doing Young Avengers, I would do Civil War. That's what I did. I did Civil War and then I did the tag along for Civil War. I will end up reviewing Civil War and the little tag along that I did. I'm going to go back and I'm going to read some extra stuff for Civil War. So when I review it, I'm kind of like reviewing a bit of an omnibus for it. But yeah, Civil War, as far as I'm aware, came right after this and was like the main big event right after this debuted. So that was my thoughts and opinions. I don't think I have anything else on my little slideshow. I don't. I was just making sure I hadn't forgotten anything. So I hope you liked it. That was my review and my discussion and breakdown of Young Avengers Volume 1 and 2. Have you read it? Have you read any Young Avengers stuff? If you have, who's your favourite character? That's always a cool thing to ask people when it comes to teams like this. Who's your favourite character? Who do you like the most? Even though I am a huge Wiccan and Hulkling fan, I love Speed. who is barely in it, but he makes such a strong impression. I love Kate Bishop. The two characters, if you sort of exclude Vision, because again, I don't know if I fully count him as a member of the team. The two characters that I don't really like as much are probably Statue and Patriot, but I think that's more based on their personalities than anything else. I think that like they're given quite brash personalities, and it makes them a little bit harder to like, especially when those personalities don't really change much either as we move forward, which I'm sure that we'll cover when I get to like Children's Crusade and stuff. But overall, again, I think it's great. I think this is very, very underrated. A lot of people question, why do we need the Young Avengers in the MCU? Because this is great. Because it's genuinely good comic book stuff. That's why. It's not just about the representation. This is a solid team. And it's never been given... You know, we don't have Marvel Legends, like up-to-date Hasbro Marvel Legends of these characters. We don't have a current run of these characters. They've kind of just been shoved aside and they've sort of all split off. They are very, very underrated. They don't get involved in like big events or anything anymore, like as a team. We never get like a Young Avengers tag along to anything. It's a shame because they're so great. So again, have you read it? Did you enjoy it? Who's your favourite character? Who's your least favourite character? Talk about the book with me. I like having discussions about comic books. I think it's great. I like hearing other people's point of views and opinions. Please be respectful. Don't be a dickhead. And I will see you guys in the next review. Bye-bye.